Obviously, later in the week, Rangers are travelling over to Czech Republic. I hear you're going to be enjoying a wee bit of time in the Czech Republic yourself, mate.
I am indeed, yep, leaving tomorrow, looking forward to it.
Of course, and they have Jablonec awaiting them in the Czech Republic. It was a win, but it wasn't what Rangers fans expected from this Rangers side. Just walk us through that match just quickly.
No, it wasn't convincing, Angus, at all. Look, the positives were the victory, the clean sheet, Ryan Nadiri getting another goal, albeit another tap-in. I think one big bright spot, I was speaking about it just before we came on air, I think that of all the summer signings, the guy that's really impressed has been Olwethu Makanya at the back. He's barely put a foot wrong. He's been really good, really impressive, quietly impressive at the back for them. So those are the positives. The negatives, I mean, the first half was really poor, I thought, in terms of the tempo that Rangers played at, the intensity they had. There was a real lack of kind of hunger and appetite, which was surprising because they'd come off the back of a big 5-1 win a few days before against St Mirren, and you expected Rangers to fly out the traps in the first leg. But Derek McInnes said it himself, he was surprised at that, he was disappointed at the kind of lack of tempo, lack of aggression, lack of appetite for the game really to go and win it in the first leg. Second half was a lot better. They obviously got a kick up the backside for the manager at half time. They had more control second half. They looked as if they were maybe going to get a second goal before obviously Cammy Devlin gets sent off 5 minutes after coming on. So look, it wasn't convincing. They'd have wanted to win that by 2 or 3 goals to make it a bit more comfortable in the Czech Republic on Thursday night. But they've still got that lead. The Rangers will believe if they go over there and score, then they would like to think that would put the tie to bed as well, but it's going to be tricky. I didn't think Jablonec were great at Ibrox, but I expect them to be a lot better at home. They've started the domestic season pretty well. I got the impression for their manager after the game, he was pretty happy to get out of Glasgow with a 1-0 defeat, so they'll fancy their chances of overturning it, and that's the challenge for Rangers. Can they go there? I mean, they went to Bielefeld in the Europa League, and I didn't think they handled the occasion very well. Crowd was right on them. They didn't play well. If they allow that to happen again, then they could be in trouble. But my instinct tells me, I think again Rangers will get a goal over there and manage to get through.
One of the things that a load of folk have been, obviously a lot of Rangers fans have been talking about was the mentality part. Did the Rangers have that mentality still to go over to Czech Republic and just get the job done?
Well, that's a big question mark, Angus. I mean, I think when me and Andy were in Bielefeld, I think we wrote I'm pretty sure that was their 8th away defeat in Europe in a row. I mean, I think the last away game they won in Europe was Fenerbahce when Barry Ferguson was in interim charge, and that was a brilliant performance. You think of how Rangers played that night. If they could have replicated that in later games, I'm sure they'd get better results, but they've not reached those levels again. In fact, they've not been anywhere near that level, for being honest, in that space of time. So they've found it difficult getting away from home. As I say, I think this will be tricky as well. And you're right, it comes down to how players deal with that mentally. Can they cope with that bit of pressure to actually still go and perform at a really good level? They didn't do that in Bielefeld at all against Jagiellonia, but they'll need to do it on Thursday night. They'll need to be a lot better. I mean, if Rangers play like they did in the first leg on Thursday, then I think they're going to toil. But you would like to think that Derek McInnes will have them well prepared for what they're about to get into, and capable of putting on a far better performance than they did in the first leg.
Of course, yeah, and looking at the game, looking at the first leg, few wee moments to touch on. You mentioned Devlin. I think he was lucky that boy didn't have his foot planted. Well challenge. Just give me your thoughts on that. And obviously he misses out going into this game.
Yeah, it was a strange one. I mean, at the game, obviously we'd only seen it once initially, and certainly in the press box couldn't really understand what the red card was for. If anything, a bit like Derek McInnes, I think we thought Rangers were maybe going to get a penalty for a foul that was maybe just inside the box. obviously when you see it again, there's no getting away from it, and it's just it's a stupid challenge that Cammy Devlin makes. I know what he's trying to do. Derek McInnes described it after the game, and he was right. No, Devlin tries to get his leg in front of the guy, and he's basically looking to try and get a foul, looking to try and get a penalty inside the box. But in doing so and stretching his leg to try and get in front of the guy, as you say, just plants it on the boy's shin. So it's high and it's dangerous. No, it's not a great deal of intensity about it. But as soon as a European referee looks at that again, especially when they put up the stills, then there was only going to be one outcome. And he'd only been on the pitch 5 minutes, so no, it was obviously a blow for Devlin, albeit, as I say, it was a stupid tackle to make. But it was a blow for Rangers as well, as I say, because they had a wee bit of momentum at that stage in the game. Yeah. Looked as if they'd go and get a second, and almost immediately you could see Derek McInnes thinking, I need to tinker with this just to make sure we go over the line here and keep a clean sheet and keep a victory, because losing a goal would have been a killer for them in the last 15-20 minutes. So it made it difficult for Rangers to then go and try and get the second. And you're right, Devlin obviously missed the second leg. No, I don't think he would have started the game, but no, and I think Cammy Devlin was signed by Rangers in the summer, to playing games like this, tricky away games, difficult venues where it can get a bit scrappy and you maybe need an extra man in midfield. So him missing on Thursday night certainly doesn't help Derek McInnes' cause.
Yeah, and talking about another miss, one of our commenters mentioned that Gassama's miss could have been 2-0. That was so close, and I just went flying over. Looking at that, what players kind of passed the mark for you, and what ones have let you down? Because Andy and I were talking about how Manny Fernandez, that was his game to kind of say, this is my spot.
Yeah.
Aye.
In terms of the miss, I mean, that almost kind of summed up Gassama, really. I mean, one minute he's brilliant, the next minute he's terrible. I mean, that's the kind of dilemma with Gassama. He's a bit of an enigma. He looks as if he's got all the ability in the world, natural ability in the world, but he doesn't always put it all together. I think McInnes sees a player in there, and that's why he's giving him a chance, whereas other players haven't had a chance. I think he sees something in Gassama that he can hopefully nurture and develop. But as I say, even at the start of this season, he's produced a couple of brilliant moments. You think of the shot he had against the underside of the bar. And to be fair to him, he does always try and go at his man, but it doesn't always get past him. I think the big criticism is he doesn't get back quick enough to help out his fullback, which can be costly as well. So, as I say, he's a bit of an enigma, Gassama. That miss kind of summed it up. And you're right, it was a big moment, because 2-0 just put a different kind of reflection on the game. So you would hope that Rangers don't kind of pay the price for that. In terms of the others, I mean, look, Fernandez, I think, has started the season really poorly. Angus, this boy was Rangers Player of the Year last season. A lot of people forget that. Fans voted him Player of the Year. Actually started the season, couldn't get in the team, struggling to get in the squad, and he ends up being Player of the Year because Danny Rowe brought him in and he excelled for part of the season. And at one point, because of the threat he was in the opposition box, and in terms of how well he was defending at the other end, he looked like a guy that Rangers are going to make a lot of money on, make a big profit. As I say, he gets the Player of the Year. He then gets linked to a few big moves in the summer. Talk of Bundesliga clubs interested. I know that's kind of resurfaced again this week, rightly or wrongly. But certainly the form he's in at the moment, I don't think he'll be ready to make that move. I don't think clubs would pay the kind of money for him. It's just to do with focus and concentration, Angus. Those are his biggest flaws. He's too casual at times. He's too lackadaisical. I said on here the other week in the St Mirren game, I think Rangers went 2-0 up with Dragojevic's goal, and it almost immediately for kick-off, he dilly-dallied on a through ball. He got it stolen off him. He had to make a kind of last-ditch tackle, give away a corner. And the Ibrox crowd went from being up and singing and positive to immediately being on Fernandez's back. And no, his game awareness has got to be a lot better than that. No, game intelligence has got to be a lot better than that. So I think he struggled at the start of the season. I think if Ben Godfrey is back fit again for Thursday night, he could well come in for Fernandez at centre-back alongside McCann. Because Derek McInnes will obviously, he's got to get through this tie, but he'll also be thinking about a really tough game on Sunday away to Aberdeen in the Premiership, another one that Rangers